Welcome back to Autoevolution, everyone. Today, we take a look at how Okai's first consumer-ready e-scooter is holding up after a year of near daily abuse. To bring you up to speed, let me point out a few things about Okai and the ES20. First of all, Okai is one of the grandfathers of electrified urban mobility, having been around for nearly 2 decades. In time, they've come to hold over 100 patents for such vehicles. However, until recently, Okai only catered to the needs of fleet businesses like Lime, Uber, and Bolt. They're responsible for a lot of the scooters you can rent to ride around town. This is where the ES20 comes in. It's their first consumer-ready electric kick scooter. In short, it's the culmination of years of research and development, tuned to help you save gas by replacing your car for short-range trips. Currently, the ES20 is selling for a reasonable $700, and after a year of riding, I have to say that it's worth every penny. Let's see if it's worth your attention and cash. The first strong point for the ES20 is its design. Okai paid special attention to this scooter. After all, being the first one that folks like you and me can take home, it had to impress. It's not only comfortable and safer to ride than most, but it will catch the eyes of anyone you ride by. Let's start with the base for the ES20, that larger than average footboard. Why is this feature so important? Simply because Okai built a footboard that's longer than what you'd find on the market. This is a must if you want to spread your feet apart and feel firmly planted while riding. All this leads to heightened stability and comfort. Speaking of comfort, there's a little trick hidden in the footboard, a suspension system. A spring allows the rear wheel to absorb some of the vibrations the road throws at you. Speaking of tires, the one at the front is pneumatic. This means it has air in it. Simply put, it will absorb some of the bumps you experience. While I'm no engineer, I feel that wrapping a rubber balloon around what is essentially the motor should help reduce its exposure to vibrations, ensuring a longer life. Whether this is true or not, I'm not sure. But after over 800 miles, this 300-watt motor is still going strong. Maybe, just maybe, I'm feeling about 5 to 10% less power than I did a year ago. Which isn't much considering this motor is rated up to a 20% hill grade. For instance, as I ride up a 13 to 15% hill grade, the motor will maintain a constant speed. Overall, the ES20 is limited to 15.5 miles per hour all over the world. With power and comfort out of the way, another aspect we need to consider is this scooter's range. Now, like any last mile solution, don't expect it to replace your car entirely, but rather for about 25 miles per charge, according to Okai. Realistically, you'll be able to squeeze out around 15 miles if you ride like I do, always in high mode, and as fast as possible. Just remember, even the size of your lunch or breakfast will affect this number. Actually, because it's an EV, a slew of factors can and will affect your range. This includes things like tire pressure, rider weight and cargo, and above all, the weather. Riding during the colder months reduced my range by up to 3 miles. But then again, who in their right mind would ride an e-scooter in 32-degree weather? This guy. And it's all for you. I've ridden this thing through everything but typhoons and snowstorms. And riding through a light puddle and soft rain for short periods at a time won't kill the ES20. That's thanks to an IP55 rating. One thing I do need to mention is that as battery levels drop below 50%, so does the rate at which the motor is fed with energy. It can still hit its top speed, it'll just do it more sluggishly. The final components I need to point out are the brakes. To ensure a safe ride, 2 braking systems are in place. A classic disc brake is found at the back, and an electronic one at the front. Continuing our exploration of all the little gimmicks that the ES20 has, we finally arrive at the steering column. It's here that we find an essential piece of an urban mobility machine's puzzle, a folding frame. With this little latch at the base, you can unlock your steering column, fold it down and lock it, and you're good to go. At the top, we have the cockpit with its literal bells and whistles. Large grips allow you to hold on tightly, and everything is within finger's reach. I also want to point out the display. It's customizable and does a rather solid job in relating the proper charge you have left in your battery. This may not sound like a big deal, but imagine riding along thinking you still have 40 to 50% charge left in your battery when you really just have 10. This is not a problem you'll encounter with the ES20. Finally, I saved the best for last. One thing Okai decided to incorporate into the ES20 and is responsible for its nickname, the Neon, is the presence of swag lights in the footboard and steering column. These lights are the reason I was dressed the way I was for the short-term review. If you missed that piece, you'll find a link in the description. While they may look a little silly, these lights will grow on you, mainly because they're customizable.
What does all this amount to?
Starting with that footboard, I can safely say that its length helps me stay in control of my rides. The grips achieve the same thing. Together, these two features offer a stability rarely found in other e-scooters in the same budget class. I can even scratch my nose if I need to, or even wave to a friend. Oh, and don't text and drive, ride, whatever. I can assure you that riding into someone at 15 miles per hour is no fun task. This is where those brakes come in. From full speed, I've been consistently able to stop anywhere between 5 and 9 yards depending on the surface I'm riding on. I also want to point out that the electronic brake will kick in by itself if the Neon exceeds its software limited top speed. It will surprise you the first time it kicks in as you ride downhill. Now, our cities are rarely perfect. So, to smoothen our experience, we have that suspension at the rear. This is a godsend in cities with cobblestone, cracked asphalt, and other rough surfaces. Best of all, 1 year later, and it's still holding up as it did on day one. Reducing hits taken up by the front wheel is that pneumatic tire.
Regarding tires, this is where I encountered a problem.
The rear tire is solid rubber, so what ends up happening as you lock your brakes is that you'll slide. In the process, the surface you're riding on will break down some of that rubber. Do that enough times and you'll need to replace it. Woo! After a year of riding, this one's time has come, albeit I destroyed it in making of this video.
Speaking of destruction, I can honestly say
that I'm surprised at how much abuse this scooter has taken from me. I do not ride lightly and with fear. I jump curbs, hit cracks, brake, accelerate, and it's still going strong. I mentioned that I'm feeling up to 10% less power from the motor, but that was gauged during the colder months. Another area where some loss has been experienced is in the battery department. I've experienced no more than 10% less range while riding around in high mode, as I always do.
If you're wondering how I racked up 800 miles on this thing in a year's time, I won't lie, I did loan it to some friends.
I wonder just how fast the battery will degrade from here. Regarding application in an urban setting, there is really no end in sight as to what you can do with a Neon. For example, I use it to ride to work and back home, and that's an 11-mile round trip. I'll then hop on and ride to the grocery store a mile or two away and still have some juice left over. After full charge, which can take up to 6 hours, I'll just hop on and do it all over again. The folding frame has its benefits too. You can easily drop the steering column and carry the Neon in hand. You can access office buildings, subways, buses, elevators, you name it. But it isn't the lightest scooter around. With a weight of 38.5 pounds, you'll feel it if you don't work out. I've used this scooter to enjoy a ride around the local park. I've used it to go to a pharmacy. I've used it to go to a coffee shop on Saturday. And I've even used it to bulk up. And I'm still using it for those things today. Yes, even the bulking up part. You should really see my quads. Oh, and because of those swag lights, rear stoplight, and headlight, flying along empty streets at night is just mesmerizing.
To sum up Okai's ES20, go for it.
By the time this thing breathes its last breath, it'll have paid for itself in fun, relaxation, health benefits, and above all, saved gas. The latter is just another way of saying more money in your pocket. As for any extra costs this thing has racked up so far, I have to change the rear honeycomb tire, which is around $30, and buy a new set of brake pads. That's just another 10 bucks.
Other than that, Okai is okay. That wasn't too much, wasn't it? No? Who wrote that anyway? We hope this video has brought to light just how valuable the ES20 has been in my life over the past year. If there's anything we missed or you'd like mentioned, leave a comment below.